We are live on the Falcons podcast. Sorry, we're a little late. Nick and I started talking different genres of music and got going here, which we can do for hours and hours and hours. We're going to bring in our Facebook group. It's Atlanta Falcons on SI. We'll bring in the verified X account. That's Scout Kennedy. And then we'll get going here because we got news. We've got news. And let's get going. Welcome in, y'all. This is the Wednesday edition of the Falcons podcast, and it feels like it would be a little bit of a purgatory. This is kind of how I started the show on Monday, Nick. A little bit of a purgatory between free agency and draft where it'd be a little quiet, but it hadn't been all that quiet. There's been a lot of stuff happening here, and it's pushed us here onto the brink of April, which means it's almost draft month. And even though the Falcons don't have a first-round pick, I think everybody's still excited to see what they can do with the picks that they do have. So they made a trade. They got a safety. Now, Nick, my gut reaction on that was, I know who Sidney Brown is. I didn't realize he hasn't played that much, and I'm not sure how good he is. Is he a starting caliber safety, or is this a depth move? My gut reaction was, Jesse Bates is in trouble. And then as I dug more into it, I started thinking, not in trouble, traded to a contender or whatever. Yeah. Then as I started looking into it more, I'm like, no, this isn't that move. If they were going to move on from Jesse Bates, this isn't that move.
No, you're probably talking about a third or fourth safety. Now, granted, the Eagles have been very talented out there, but I mean, if he was available, I think he's going to be a needle mover. If he was great, he'd probably be playing. They don't have amazing safeties in Philly. They've had turnover there. Rodrigo Blankenship, and I think that's the name. Maybe I'm mixing up the kicker from Georgia with the name, but they have the white safety who's not Cooper DeJean out there. He's good, but not that good. And then you had the Cowboys pick up the Eagles defensive backs coach, worked with him, and they needed a safety too. And instead of trading for Sidney Brown, they brought in PJ Locke. So if Sidney Brown was available, you have that connection there. You'd think maybe knocking on that door. Cowboys also are pretty full with picks. They're doing pretty well there, even after trading for Quinnen Williams. So again, I think this is a depth piece. Liked him at Illinois. Fun story. I can't remember if it's his brother or his twin brother, but he's the starting running back right now. We'll see.
They came out at the same time, but that doesn't necessarily mean
I don't know if they're the same class.
They're the same age or not.
Like you got the Styles brothers in this class coming out, but they're not. I don't think they're twins. I think there's a different age group there. But yeah, Chase Brown, Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown's been good. I believe that was the unbelievably talented defensive backfield that you had from the Illinois that year. They had 3 guys drafted, including Witherspoon going 4 overall. But Brown's a good player. I just don't think you gave yourself an option for injury. And also if somebody offers you a trade for Jesse Bates where it's like, well, okay, like we're not winning this year anyway. Are we going to give up a 3rd round pick? Or are we going to not take in a 3rd round pick or whatever? Or let's say the trade deadline comes also and you have somebody there. So is Jesse Brown's in trouble because of this move? Or is Jesse Bates in trouble because of this move? Not necessarily, but you give yourself a fallback option in case something comes up.
Yeah, and when I said that in trouble, that was the wrong way to put that, because Jesse Bates is a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber player who's going to have a huge market and can basically dictate where he would want to go in a trade, which would be to some type of contender, and then he's going to make $25 million. So, wrong phrasing. And, and I understand the idea was someone's like, well, you can't just trade Jesse Bates. No, you're not going to get better if you trade Jesse Bates. Don't mistake that. But are you better by letting Caden Ellis walk? Are you better by, replacing Tyler Allgeier with
Brian
Robinson Jr. now? Maybe that one, but you're not better by letting Caden walk. That one I'm pretty sure of. Are you better with David Onyemata gone? Maybe, because I got 2 guys for less than I had to pay him. But again, this hasn't felt like hey, we're 1 player away, let's make a move. This is a feeling out type of year for me. And I look at it, I started looking, who's the 3rd best tackling safety for the Atlanta Falcons last year? And it was DeMarco Hellams, who hardly played, it felt like. We didn't see him on the field hardly at all. So the Falcons got really lucky with I won't say luck. You drafted him and he's really good with Xavier Watts, but you get a 3rd round pick taken right around 100 and he plays at damn near a Pro Bowl level. That's a little lucky. That's a little lucky. If you thought he was a Pro Bowl guy, you might have taken him sooner. And And then Jesse Bates they both stayed healthy the whole season. So I think part of that, again, Nick, it's like it felt like Jesse Bates didn't have quite the season that he did the previous 2 years. Well, a good part of that, Nick, was the Falcons were putting the quarterback on their ass for the first time in God knows how long, with 57, 60 sacks instead of literally what they have 17 or 18 a couple of years ago. It was crazy. So, they had one blip in there with Ryan Nielsen's defense when they were in the 40s, but I don't know that they'd broken 35 in 3 of the other 4 seasons. So I'm not going to get as much production from my safety, which is okay.
And also turnovers are super volatile year to year. I mean, it's such a small sample size. So much of luck plays into it. I mean, you're talking about the sack, Scott, and I'm sitting here at the same time thinking, well, I mean, you could argue that if you get more pressure, the ball should be potentially in harm's way more because the quarterback is forcing things. Because sometimes pressure leads to errant throws. And so I don't think it's necessarily, for me personally, I don't think it's the pressure taking away the opportunities. It's just turnovers in general are unbelievably volatile. They come in bunches, and that can happen in a season. That can happen over multiple seasons. He's still a great safety. Now, is he one of the top 3 or 4 in football? I'd have to sit down and look at the list. I mean, maybe there. I mean, am I going to put him up am I going to put him up with Kyle Hamilton, Derwin James? Maybe not, but that's that next tier, maybe for sure. I'd have to sit down and look at it, but he's really good. What would I expect for him? If somebody comes and offers a 3rd round pick for his age, for the position he plays, for where this team is at right now,
he's a free agent after this year,
I'd probably consider it. And that's no disrespect to Jesse Bates. You're obviously worse for that, but you're unloading a contract. You're adding flexibility. You're adding a lottery ticket as well, a cost-controlled player that Jesse Bates is a 2026 outlook. 3rd round pick is a 2026 through ideally 2036 outlook.
Yeah, like I said, if the Falcons were to move on from Jesse Bates, there's no way they get better. That's not one of those moves. It's building for the future. There's no way they're a better team in 2026 without Jesse Bates. Can't be done. Yeah. So, but they're building. This is something they are building. This is a new regime, and they're not under a ton of pressure to win right away. So this is feeling things out. They've set themselves up with more draft picks in 2027 and a boatload of money. Everybody they've signed, for the most part, I really think I don't think anybody they're financially tied to that they've signed. I mean, the longest contract is 3 years, and it's like 3 years, $9 million. Okay, so the 2-year deal is really only 1 year deal of guaranteed money for Jahan Dotson, and I think the kicker. I think Jake Bailey, the punter, got 3 years. That's the longest, and it's not that expensive. And then Folk got the 2-year deal, and it's really only 1 year of guaranteed money. So everybody that they signed, none of them are guaranteed to be on the roster in 2027. This is a reset year for sure. But speaking of resetting, we want to say hello to some folks. That's why we go live. So there's some people that came in here nice and early before we got started, and I want to say hello to some folks like John Harrell, who is a member of the Falcons podcast. He says, let's freaking go. He's ready to go. Denver Luke has come in. He says, good morning, Scott and Nick. Happy mock draft Wednesday. Yeah, we will do a mock draft to finish. And some of these moves may have affected how we would do the draft. I think specifically at linebacker and maybe now at running back. I'm not worried about taking if I've only got 5 or 6 picks, I'm not worried about a day 3 running back anymore. I got Brian Robinson Jr. and Nate Carter. I'm good. I'm okay for 2026.
That's the move.
So we'll see how that plays out, Nick. And then Denver Luke, he's got the coffee emoji. Cheers. I'll drink to that.
I'm drinking out of my Oculus Island Florida mug today.
What do I have right now? I've got the gold roast, I think.
Delicious.
It's a little smokier. I didn't like it as much as the standard to start, but what I've kind of realized with this is it needs just a little bit extra. It needs it's counterintuitive. It's like, wait, this tastes stronger. It feels a little darker, a little smokier, like a French roast almost. But I put more in it, and actually it was better. I'm like, okay, here we go. So it's still pretty damn good.
I'm drinking from Michael.
Okay. You got the Puerto Rican stuff.
Yes, the Puerto Rican. The one that you said that you really liked. Very tasty. I don't remember which the orange bag.
I say that one. Yeah, that one was good. That one was
very good.
So
I'm drinking out of one of my favorite mugs as well. I don't drink out of it too much, but we moved, so we kind of dug everything out. But Okaloosa Island, if you've ever been there, it's unbelievably beautiful. Out there, kind of by Fort Walton, white spongy beaches. It is so
squeak under your feet. So I grew up, when I'd go to the beach, I'd go to the Gulf Coast, you know, Fort Walton, mostly Fort Walton, because my family had my grandparents would go down there and stay for a couple of months, you know, the snowbirds, and I stayed down there. So
Midwest.
Once I started seeing other beaches, I'm like, this isn't as nice.
I love the Okaloosa Island White Sand Beach. Very beautiful. Nothing will top my, love for the Pacific Northwest and the real, but that's not like a lay-in warm water beach.
No,
that's you're freezing your butt off.
When I lived in LA for 10 years. I went in the water 2 times.
Yeah, but I mean the rock features and the trees. Up in the Pacific Northwest, you see the giant redwoods. They don't have them in Washington except driftwood, because the Pacific is that strong. It carries them up and crashes them into the beach. It's really beautiful.
So there were 2 moves that got announced yesterday. One of them was the Falcons. A bunch of the backup quarterback dominoes fell yesterday. Okay, so I think the Falcons could have done something else if they wanted to, but they bring in Trevor Siemian, who hasn't played in a game in a couple of years. He's been on, I think, the Titans. He's been a Titans backup for the last 2 seasons. Has low 30s as far as age, has several years of starting experience. I think he is a ideal 3rd guy, Nick, to bring in. It's like, if I'm looking at this, last year's Kirk Cousins, a 108 Kirk Cousins with Michael Penix Jr. or Easton Stick, or now Tua, Michael Penix, and Nick Folk. Who would you, or not Nick Folk, sorry, Trevor Siemian. Who would you rather have, Easton Stick or Trevor Siemian in that room? I'd rather have now, would I have Cole Payton, maybe as a rookie, a developmental guy, maybe, but I want the steady veteran presence in there that knows the system, who's got some familiarity. That's the guy, and he's not going to cost anything. So I think it was a good signing, Nick.
And he, given his level of play, his age, he wouldn't keep me from drafting a quarterback if I liked one. Like, thanks, Trevor. We liked you on camp here. We're going to keep this 5th round pick that we loved, that is showing promising signs. That's again, what's the perspective on him? Trevor Siemian, 2-year, whatever the contract was, but like, it's a 2-year window, and it's a very low end 2 or high end 3, where versus that backup quarterback that you draft, different perspective. So again, you ask me, would I rather have Stick or Siemian? Siemian for sure, especially with where this Falcons team is at. People might hate me for this one, Scott. I think there is a conversation to be had for Tua versus Cousins if Cousins is healthy. But that's just, again, Tua scares the heck out of me.
I think there's a conversation there. And from what I hear, it's not even the concussions that are the big worry. It's that hip. That's what I've been told.
There's a car accident level hit at Alabama, and that scared a lot of
the
things.
Hip. What is the long-term scarier part? I mean, obviously concussions are different. That could happen. One concussion could knock any quarterback out for a long time. Tua's had a few, and that's scary, but it's the hip that's scary on that. But, part of those other moves we saw Zach Wilson sign. I think Zach Wilson signed for about $4 or $5 million. And the one that I thought would end up here was Joe Flacco, who re-signed with the Cincinnati Bengals for $6 million. Would you rather have Tua for 1.3 or Joe for 6? I know what I would answer on this one, because not only did I get Tua, but for $6 million, I got Tua, Deshaun Hand, and Chris Williams, 2 defensive tackles for $6 million. It's like, it's just $6 million. Yeah, but that's 2 mid-level veterans, honestly, at different positions for $2-3 million, because there's such a disparity between the super highest paid at $30 million. There's hardly any middle class anymore. That the middle class is maybe double a vet minimum. That's the middle class of the NFL. So you're able to get 2 middle class defensive tackles and Tua. So yeah, I'm glad. I thought it was going to be Joe. I didn't want Joe. I understood it. I didn't want Joe Flacco. I'm much happier that Tua is here with some upside. He may not play. He may get hurt and be out for this season after a quarter. He might. But is old man Joe really moving the needle for y'all? Again, quarterback room. Oh my God, that's the worst quarterback room I've ever seen. Who did you think you were going to get? I like this. I like this quarterback room for this team, for what resources that were available. I like this quarterback room.
Yeah, Joe Flacco is definitely a lifeboat option for this team. If things go off the rail with Penix, at least he can like get you through and you can be competent around him. But he was also somebody who was a 1 year, 2 year option, where Tua, again, with the injuries, from what we've seen, you're not like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, he's the future. But with his age, his draft pedigree, some of the success we have seen with him, Scott, I mean, he is somebody who's a little bit more of a lottery ticket, if you will, and could actually be, a multi-year option here. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he's a, franchise savior. No, but I do think this is a little bit more of a long-term upside play, bringing in Tua. And also it's something that should feel a little bit more of a challenge to Michael Penix as well. So stay healthy and play more consistent, because if not, you have somebody in there who, with his age and everything and the success he has had, is a viable option for more than one season. Where Joe Flacco,
we just want you to get a legit competition. And someone asked me, Nick, what would you consider a successful season?
Oh man, I mean, there's so many.
What I said too. What would you consider, Nick? What would you consider a successful season for the Atlanta Falcons?
The players on the rookie contracts look like they're getting a lot better, and you are competitive, and you see like progress from those guys who are the developing core of this team. Now, obviously, if you make the playoffs, that's great, but I'm not defining that as the bar for success or not. It's the youth players in here and starting to really establish who are the guys on the lifeboat going forward.
What I said was they feel like they found their quarterback of the future. That would be what I would consider a successful season, because if they do that, I think the rest of the team is good enough around them that if they get a long-term quarterback answer that's not no. So we're so used to getting answers in the negative, elimination through negativity, but a positive answer, I would consider that this is probably going to be a playoff team. So that part takes care of itself. And you're not going into 2027 looking for a quarterback again, which isn't the best way to be in. And John asked this question, says, who would take on Jesse Bates in his contract? His contract's not that bad because, again, a lot of his cap hit is from signing bonuses, restructures. I think his base is like 12, 13, 14 million, somewhere in the low teens. So his base salary is not that bad. And on top of that, you should never really ask this question because contracts are negotiable in trades. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's say the Eagles, we sent you Sidney Brown because we want you to send us Jesse Bates here in a month or so. We're working on that deal. Okay, we want to send you a 4th round pick, and we'll take on his whole salary. It's only 1 year left. $14 million. We'll take on the whole thing. No, we want a 3rd rounder, and we'll pay 5 of it. So all of that's negotiable. You can trade him. Basically, you're buying your way up a pick depending on how much of the salary you want to take. So the contracts themselves, specifically with base salary, is negotiable in these trades. So that's something you always have to keep thinking of. You can't trade him because of the contract. In the last year of a deal, you can, because you're not taking on a bunch of dead money. Now, when you look at it and say, because the Falcons are actually on the right side of Jesse Bates' deal, if they were to just flat out cut him, they would save some money. They're not going to do that because he's good. He's a valuable player. So when they would move on from him, the part of the negotiations would be how much of that salary will you take on? So something to think about when talking about trades, especially for guys in a contract year. So who else we got here? We got Terry. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. And I guess the other guy that we want to talk about, Nick, was Brian Robinson Jr. Looks like we've got our Tyler Allgeier replacement here, and he comes in at $2.5 million. And again, I asked a question as far as building a team and resource management and all that type of stuff. Would I rather have Tyler Allgeier on 6.5, or would I rather have Brian Robinson Jr. on 2.5? For this team, I'd rather have Brian Robinson Jr. and $4 million to spend somewhere else, which is why we kind of knew Tyler Allgeier was gone, because he's not going to get the opportunity he deserves and the money he deserves that he's earned on this team because he's a starting caliber running back. I think Tyler Allgeier is a better running back. I don't need a $7 million running back on this team, Nick. I need competency. I need, a professional, some versatility. He's returned kickoffs. I got that in Brian Robinson Jr.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to come in and be an innings eater, so to speak. And you're right, Allgeier is better, and I thought Allgeier would have a larger market than he ended up having personally. But Brian Robinson with saving the $4 million is great. The one thing that I am worried about, and I know people have already made jokes about it, but as my first thought as well, is better be careful in fantasy football this year when you're sitting there in your draft and you have B. Robinson, Atlanta on your board there, because you could be really sad if you make the wrong choice there. But no, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And the one thing that Brian Robinson does, Scott, and you already touched on it, is that you don't have to sit there and be like, oh my gosh, we have to take Katron Allen or the Mike Washington or Jonah Coleman because we don't want to destroy Bijan, right? Like we have to find a mid-round running back. Now, I mean, if one presents itself that you like, Brian Robinson wouldn't keep me from adding somebody, but you're not sitting there where it's like, if I don't take a running back in round 2 to 5, I'm concerned about the room and also long-term health of protecting Bijan. That's not the case anymore with Brian here.
And Finesse and King asks, and good to see that feels like a newer name, so welcome in. He says, do you think the Falcons have a chance at winning the division this year? Yes. They should have won it the last 3 years, honestly. That's why you've got your third coach in 4 seasons.
The NFC South is wide open. I think, right now, if I had to put them in an order, man, Scott, I don't know. I'd probably put Carolina number 1. I'm not a
really. I'd still go Tampa probably until somebody really beats the Buccaneers and knocks them off.
They got beat out last year, and
a 3-way tie. It was 8-9.
Yeah, they still got beat out, and I think that they seem. I don't know if by the end of the year it was a lot of infighting, and issues. It sounded like, and I worry about Todd Bowles. I also think Baker was on a heater, and I don't think he's that level of quarterback, and we saw that as the season progressed.
No Mike Evans.
No Mike Evans. The defense has just not been very good. I think Bowles, maybe the game defensively has passed him by a little bit. It's not just, blitz every down anymore. You got to be clever with how you're blitzing, not just blitz to blitz. The Saints are really interesting. We'll see what happens with Tyler Shuck. And obviously Tampa's there. I could pick any of the teams here. Right now, I think I'll go Carolina just because if I had to bet, I think they have the best offensive line in the division, the run game wise. And they added some pieces on defense as well. So, but it's wide open. I mean, I feel the least confident in the NFC South is compared to any division in the entire.
I don't think any team's out of it, honestly.
No.
Tyler Shuck played well, but again, the small sample size, the sophomore jinx is a real thing. The sophomore slump, it's a real thing.
Yep.
So, and they were in a mini rebuild. I think they were ahead of schedule last year. Can they take the next step? We'll see. Panthers were improved last year. The Tampa Bay was on their way down, but they're certainly capable of bouncing back. And the Falcons probably should have won the damn division. If they had even competent special teams last year, they would have. It's something as simple as that. So
for me, some of the draft odds, Scott, and they're just all over the board. The overall ranking would have Buccaneers clear favorite, and then pick your poison of Saints, Panthers, Falcons. Falcons do come in 4th in the conglomerate, but like barely, right? Like it's like a tier where Buccaneers and then the other 3 teams we'll see. Depending on
power rankings, they're all in the 20s.
Yeah.
It's like they're all between 20 and 25, the whole NFC South. So yeah, it's wide open. So for me, it's the quarterback play, because I don't think we should see a big variation, even if James Pierce Jr. doesn't play a down and you've swapped out your whole edge room other than Jalen Walker. I don't think the defense is going to be wildly different one way or the other. I think it should be pretty close to what it was last year, which was a lot of big plays, both for and against. Hopefully they'll be a little bit better against the run. They bring in some bigger bodies, be a little bit better against the run and early downs. I still want another cornerback to come in that can compete for the cornerback 2 spot, and then depth. And we've seen that, mentioned that, with Caden gone, we need more running and more linebackers. They've signed 2 linebackers. So for me, that brings in, and they're cheap. They're really cheap, but you can get professional linebacker play for cost. But right now you're Divine, you're probably Christian Harris, Channing Tyndall 1, 2, 3, and that pushes JD Bertrand down to 4. I'm still looking for a guy that can go 2-3 and pushing JD Bertrand off the roster, honestly. I mean, no offense, but that's my job. I like to say that, professionally speaking, my job as a general manager is to replace you. It's your job to make yourself irreplaceable. He really hasn't. So let me see. I'm going to go back up to the top a little bit because we missed a lot of hellos as we've been yapping here. Terry's here. Good morning. Trenton, he's here. It is a beautiful day. It's pollinated. Good God, it's pollen season in March. That's for sure. GATX, good morning. What's that say? James Obleton? That's a cool name. Welcome in. Good morning. And let's see, talking about Terry. I didn't see about as far as Garrett on Bates. You guys are on opposite sides of the fence on moving him. After listening to you both, I don't know. I could see going either way. Yeah, I always lean towards a move doesn't happen. It's hard to make a deal. So, and it's even moves that should have been made. Kirk Cousins was still here a year too long. But I always lean towards moves not happening. But if I wanted salary cap space and I wanted to pick up an extra pick, my most tradable asset right now that makes the most sense for this team is Jesse Bates. He's a non-premium position, second highest paid guy at his position in the NFL, and he's on a contract here, and he's getting older. That makes sense. Those are assets to be traded. So, but I would lean towards he probably won't be traded. And I don't know, Nick, how often do defensive backs get traded in season, like Pro Bowl level defensive backs? It just seems like it's skill guys, like a wide receiver here, instead of a cerebral position, like the quarterback of your defense at safety coming in. I would think that'd be a tough move to make. I feel like that doesn't happen very often. Could be wrong.
Look it up. Yeah.
So I'll hit Rusty real quick as we're coming in. And Rusty coming in with a super chat. Thank you, Rusty. He says, Ryan, Mariota, Ritter, Kirk, Penix, Tua, 6 different QBs in 6 years. We were basically the Cleveland Browns of the NFC. Hope this regime gets it right. Yeah. And, talking Ryan was at the end of his career. So we knew that was coming. Mariota was absolutely supposed to be a bridge. Ritter was a miss. And then the Kirk Penix situation was just poor resource management. If you erase Kirk and throw in, hell, even Ritter again for his second year, you needed a bridge there. They thought that, hey, we're close enough to being a playoff team that we can get a quarterback and build for the future. And even though we haven't won or been to the playoffs or had a winning season in 6 years, by God, we're good enough that we can do that. We're going to follow the Green Bay way. Well, the Green Bay was already a 14-3 team, and we're drafting in the 20s, not in the top 10. It's like people bought that hook, line, and sinker. It gives somebody. Carrie, great to see you. Appreciate you coming in. I know you've been watching after the fact. I'm glad you're able to join in today and join us live. Carrie says, good morning, Scott and Nick. Hope all is good. All is good. For y'all who suffer from allergies, I feel for you because I can feel it. And if I'm feeling it, I know people who suffer from allergies are freaking hurting today.
Man.
It's like, yeah, my eyes are a little itchy. I'm like, oh, do you have allergies? No, I got clouds of crap in my eyes. So that's it. Glad you're here. So Nick, what did you find out about that level of player? If we can hold on, and if things go bad, we can make a trade at the trade deadline for Jesse Bates. I don't know how feasible that is.
But as you said, what is the null hypothesis? Not happening is probably the most likely move in the end. But in the last 5 years or so, there have been a number of moves for defensive backs, but it's mostly been corners.
Corners, yeah. Because, like Sauce, Terry's saying they traded Sauce Gardner. That's easy. Yep. Hey, a corner of that caliber, I don't need to teach you the defense. You don't need to know what everybody's supposed to do. You stick on him. Just follow him around the whole time. Don't let him catch the ball. Done. Yeah. You're earning your money then. It's not like that for a safety.
Maybe last year changed things, though, because the number of defensive backs traded last year was much higher than other years. You had 5. Sauce Gardner, Greg Newsome, Browns to Jags. You had Tyson Campbell, Jags to Browns. So, there was a swap on that one. Roger McCreary, Titans to Rams, and just Sir Taylor. I don't even know who that is, but Chargers to Jets. The year before that, you had Tre'Davious White going Bills to Ravens. 2023, you did have a safety. Kevin Byard going Titans to Eagles. You also had Rasul Douglas going Packers to Bills. 2022, you had William Jackson, Commanders to Steelers, and Bradley Roby went from Texans to Saints. 2021, you had Stephon Gilmore moved. 2020, Desmond King. In 2019, you had Jalen Ramsey, Marcus Peters, and Aqib Talib. So vast majority cornerback on that.
Yeah.
But
I would think that a position like that would be like, it's like, oh, first off, you can't acquire starting level center or offensive lineman in season, period. There's just not enough of them. It's more skill guys, running back, wide receiver, guys that can come in and just do a job. I'm talking about, if I love a running back, I'm going to take a running back, but I don't need to take a running back right now. I've got 3 that I'm comfortable with, and I don't need to develop a running back. It's a born position. It's a God-given position as running back. You got to work. Don't get me wrong, but they make running back coaches the best recruiters on a staff in college. They make them running back coaches. You're here to recruit. You're not here necessarily to coach. But all he says, as far as the trade down in the 6, a pick swap with the Sidney Brown trade with the Eagles. So what is trading down? What was it, like 8 spots, 18 spots, something like that? In the 6 even mean? Chance of hitting changes 0.3%, maybe, if that. So Ian Cunningham has executed his first trade down, moving down 2 spots. A 4th, he moved down, I think it was like 8 and 18. I don't have it in front of me right now. And in the 4th, and then again in the 6th, and picked up a player. So they're coming out of this with at least 5 picks, out of this draft with at least 5 picks, and Sidney Brown. So he has executed his first trade down. GATX asking about thoughts of hiring from someone from UGA. Our friend Brooks broke that news yesterday. If you go to si.com/college/Georgia, he had the news on they're hiring a guy to be kind of Matt Ryan's right-hand man, so to speak, over there. So they're bringing someone in from Georgia, from UGA. I don't have all of the details on that, but I did see that happen yesterday. And Bruce coming in saying, Falcons have good players. It's always been the worst leadership. That's too simplistic for me, because I think even when the Falcons were in their heyday, I thought it was an imbalanced roster, and you're too heavy on skill guys on offense, especially, and light on defense and offensive line. And when they come nut cutting time, they couldn't run the ball to kill games, and they couldn't stop anyone to close out a game. And that was my thoughts on Thomas Dimitroff before, then he got desperate, again. So the whole idea of being able to trade picks 5 years out, to me, no way, not with our history here. No way I would not let my general manager do that as owner. No effing way, because they get desperate. They're trying to hold on to their jobs.
I feel like watching
you might say the leadership here, well, that was Dimitroff. You just proved my point. But I just felt like I feel like the rosters have been poorly constructed overall for a long, long time.
I mean, we've watched it, Scott, the depth at wide receiver on this team. Historically, the depth on the defensive line the last 5-10 years. We harp on him, but man, it's rough to watch. JT Bertrand, you're talking about within the margins of the NFC South, what it's been the last 5 years. Has the coaching staff maximize what they had? No, but this isn't some juggernaut roster with a bozo head coach and GM. Like this is
a team that's 4 years to address the defense.
Yeah,
and by then it's too late.
You're talking about a team that's very much garden variety, middle of the pack in talent. Now they do have some talented superstars, but 1 through 53, they've been lacking. For a bit.
And Nick, that's been one of the arguments. Well, he got us Bijan and Drake and I'm like, yeah, those are top 10 picks, guys. You're not supposed to be picking in the top 10 every year.
Yeah. So I'd say pretty garden variety. They've obviously left meat on the bone, as I like to say, for this team, and that's why you've had so many coaches turn over here. But you can look across the league, like compare them to, I don't know. Let's just look at the Bears, I guess, for example. I mean, the talent the Bears have, top to bottom, or the depth the Packers have. Just kind of keep it on there. They have the stars too, but like really, you look at the mid-level starters on there, and they're significantly better than what the Falcons have. So it's a both problem.
Obviously,
people people want it to be one single thing, typically, or not one single thing.
It's easy to fix.
Yes, exactly.
Fire Rich McKay and everything. We're going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's not that easy. It's a start. Yeah. It needs to happen. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that easy.
Multi-step process.
Look at Big Low Country showing up. Now, this reminds me with Carrie and Big Low Country coming in today and dropping super chats. One, I feel blessed because y'all are heavy hitters in the Falcons nation. Big Low says, Scott and Nick, what in the world, Bo? I started thinking more about this meet and greet thing here. What would y'all think? And I want you in the comments, if you're watching this after the fact, I want you to respond to me in the comments if you would be able to do something like this. Why not over towards off Peachtree Industrial? I'm going to check it out this weekend because we're doing senior night, I think, over there for baseball. And they're supposed to have a big room in the back, Taco Mac off Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. What about Friday draft night? Would y'all want to have a draft party, a Falcons podcast, Atlanta Falcons podcast draft party on rounds 2 and 3? The draft starts at 7, so it wouldn't be like a 10-hour thing where we get together and have a draft party. Falcons podcast draft party Friday. I think it was April 20-something, 24th maybe. Starting at 7 o'clock at Taco Mac Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. Is that something you would be interested in? Is that something you could attend? Because as I said on Monday, one of the reasons I'm afraid to do this is I'm afraid I'd be sitting in a room all by myself, and that scares me to death.
Well, as you know, Scott, I'll be on dad duty that week. So if you don't know if you'll be live or anything, I'll be there after the kid is down. But my wife will be enjoying sunny San Diego for a bachelorette party. I looked at the calendar, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I'm like, oh, crap. That's the draft.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, we're talking draft. I looked up the date and time. We'll make it a draft party. I mean, you're planning on watching the draft anyway, right? So we could do that, and then instant reactions. I'd have fan cams. I'd interview y'all. We'll get your takes on that. But that was kind of what I was thinking. Was maybe we do that on draft night. Let's have a draft party. So with rounds 2 and 3, since the Falcons aren't going on day 1, they'll should be fairly busy on day 2 with a 2nd and 3rd. So we will see. That was what I was thinking. Y'all let me know if we can get some people that say we get enough people to say yes. It wouldn't take a ton. We can fill a room with 10 people and significant others. Hell, I got 4 in my house I'll drag along. And then my parents, there's 6 right there. You're coming to the draft party. So might be able to do something like that. But let me know. I was thinking day 2 draft, Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, somewhere in that. And it doesn't have to be there, but I'm not driving 2 hours either. Remember, I'm up in Alpharetta, north side, somewhere in there on that. So think about that. Let's see. We're 40 minutes in. We've talked Brian Robinson Jr., how he fits with this team. And I like the fact that, is he an upgrade on Tyler? Not necessarily. Can he do what Tyler Allgeier did for this team last year? Yes, he can. Yes, he can. He can be a short yardage back, come in and take over some tough run yardage, throw in some versatility in there out of the backfield. He's probably a little bit better receiver. It'd be impossible to say that he's, a better tackle breaker, power runner, because Tyler Allgeier is elite at that. But can he be a power short yardage guy who's getting 5 touches a game? Yes, he can. And I did it for $4 million cheaper, which turns into, frankly, a couple of starters in this free agent class. So I keep wanting to call him Nick Folk.
That's a kicker.
Who's the quarterback I'm thinking of that played for the Eagles that went to the Super Bowl?
Nick Foles.
Thank you. That's who I want to call. Every time I think Trevor Siemian, I think Nick Foles, which then translates into my brain Nick Folk, because they signed Folk, which is the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback, but it's not. Mm-hmm. Trevor Siemian, we'll get that straight eventually if he sticks around long enough. Again, raising the floor of the room. I saw the comments on the initial when it was the story was broken. Worst quarterback room ever. I'm like, well, no, it's not. Frankly, there's some potential in there.
Have you seen the Raiders the last few years?
Yeah, and who did you think you were going to get for your third quarterback? For your second quarterback? I don't know. And people
I understand being frustrated with where you're at in the quarterback room and missing on your right now, apparently missing. I'm still not giving up on Michael Penix, but we can't say that the first 2 years have been promising with the injuries, and there's been flashes, but it's not where you'd want to be.
No, and I get that, but the idea is like I have to have these guys. I have to sign somebody. It's not like, the reaction is like, oh, well, that's a terrible signing. Well, then don't just tell me it's bad. Tell me better options, because you act like, and I'm not saying this, I spend too much time on social media, and I don't spend half the time Nick does, and I can't believe he's not that crazy.
Oh, I mean, I just come on screen and I kind of tape my face back together here, but
but the people that are so negative about this act like that they're taking somebody else's spot. Like, no, you have to have this player. You have to fill this spot, quarterback 2-3. You have to fill it. Mm-hmm. Who are you expecting at quarterback 3? I don't get it. I wanted to draft a guy. Well, you still can. You absolutely still can. So
speaking of drafting, Scott.
Yeah, speaking of drafting, I got this set up over here. Let's bring this up. I'm gonna go PFF. I just like the format the best.
You also can pick new boards. Did you see that? Now they won't grade you.
Can we? That'll help. Create board. There we go.
Now they won't grade your draft if you go off of the non-PFF board. But do I care?
The best.
Yeah, I don't care.
I end up bitching about their grade anyway.
Yeah.
Consensus. Let's go consensus board.
That's what I've been doing. Yep.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go consensus.
And I always turn up randomness too, especially picking as far down as you are. It's not as egregious. Like when you're picking, 15 and you have the number 2 overall.
Mendoza goes 12.
Yeah, that's a problem. But when you're picking 48,
that's a little too random.
The 20th overall player has a chance to fall to 48th, depending on whose board you're looking at.
So let's we'll max out, not max out, but midpoint needs and positional value. That's all showing for y'all. We're all good.
Yep, looks good.
All right, let's hit enter draft. We're not trading up, so I'm just gonna hit the fast button. Halsey says the better option was to go back in time and draft Flacco instead of Ryan. Haven't needed a QB in almost 20 years. Yeah, Matt Ryan was a better quarterback than Joe Flacco. You switch their careers, and Matt Ryan probably has 2 Super Bowl rings, at least. So you put him in Baltimore for a decade, he's probably got 2 rings. I know you were joking, though, for sure.
Having Julio doesn't
hurt. I knew you were joking on that. Let's go. We'll go start draft.
And Chris Walker says, I'd love to see Pitts become a complete tight end, good blocking, better route running, stays healthy, reaches potential and vision we had for him when he was drafted. I don't think you're ever going to get a good blocker from him, but that's not necessary for his value. Now, ideally, you do pair him with a true Y that detaches him. But again, it's not like you have to go that direction, in my opinion. So again, he's still can be a top 5 tight end of the league, and he's still really young. And after he got the franchise tag, Scott, there's a lot of teams that were like, well, there's the guy we wanted to target this offseason that we actually thought could be a long-term needle mover. So he's still got the goods. There is no doubt about it. And we saw the potential a few times this season. So we'll see what this year brings from him. But you also have to just accept that is he ever going to become, my favorite skill position player of all time, Rob Gronkowski? Probably not. And that's okay.
Yeah, I want him to be an elite weapon pass catcher. If he does that, I don't care about his blocking other than can he get in the way of a guy?
Can he be like a C- to
shield as a blocker? So I want him to be the Julio Jones replacement. Not that. I think that's not going to happen, but that's what he was drafted to be. He was drafted to replace Julio. If he becomes, one of the top 2 or 3 pass catching tight ends in the NFL, that's a big win. That's where I am on this. See, Electrician comes and says, good morning, Scott, Nick, and he has also become a member. So thank you so much. That reminds me, because we will do a jersey giveaway. I'm trying to pick the date. I was like, oh, we might just do it at the meet and greet. We'll do a jersey giveaway. But that reminded me, Keith Robbins went from Nest to Perch. Thank you so much. And Palmetto Panther, who I think is a Carolina Panthers fan, who has come in and said hello and has been a good member of the Falcons podcast, is actually now a member of the Falcons podcast. Now, I would have to figure something out if you were to win the jersey. So I can't. Maybe I get who played there that I love. Maybe Thomas Davis, a good dog over there. Luke Kuechly, he was somebody that most everybody can root for, as football lovers could root for. So Thank you for being a member. And, don't miss your Friday podcast. Friday podcast is just for members. Now, getting back to this draft, is it just Dan Orlovsky gassing up Ty Simpson, or could he go in the first?
He could go in the first. I mean, teams are crazy for quarterback. If you don't have a guy and you see somebody that you think could potentially fit the bill, I mean, you can swing. But, I mean, Garrett Nussmeier to me is in the same category. I think it's a pretty decent drop personally from Mendoza, but, the NFL draft is fluky and weird. So we'll see. We are on the board here. I mean, obviously, I would be hoping somebody would want to be trading up for
yeah, but we got a 0 on our trades.
Yeah, we got a 0. Yep. Can you go back to the top? Ty Simpson is the top. Well, that's too bad. Prenyon is interesting, but I don't know if I can go pure guard here. If he was a tackle that could kick into guard, give you some options there, maybe. But like Bergeron is good enough, and I don't think with this pick you're going that way. The one Scott here to me, I think there are 2 that stick out, but again, if there's a tie, I go with the position of value. It's Chris Bell, depending on the injury history. You also have Malachi Lawrence and Gabe Jackas.
I've got 4 that I'm looking at, dude.
Okay, well, right now I'm Chris Bell because we haven't gone that way yet. We keep talking about this team being, what's the perspective? It's more about like the 3-year picture. And Bell, a lot of people thought was a top 20 pick before that injury. So again, it comes down to the medicals, but he is massive, yak player. I mean, he's like 6'2", 225. He's a unit. The yards after catch stuff he can do. Jake Galladay is also really interesting for me. And then you have your 2 edge rushers that were a little further down. But like for me, I can't help it, Scott. Bigger is better. And Bernard is fine as a slot, but I'd rather have the guy who is physically imposing. Doesn't always work out that way. I know that. You can have small guys who can play well, but I want to draft body beautiful guys.
All right, so you've knocked it down to 3 for me because I think Christian Miller should be considered here.
He is considered too. Are you worried about losing Harrison?
I feel like with Zach, I think Zach hasn't. We can keep Zach. I think you can keep Zach long term.
I would sign him today, personally. Yeah. Because if he has a season like last year, you're talking.
He's just had injury problems, which I think is going to keep his market down. And again, it just pisses me off beyond no end that he misses a few games, and then his first game back, he plays a season high snap count in the overtime game because they left one of their interior defensive linemen off the active roster that game. Then they had an injury, and then we never saw Zach Harrison again. He was out for the rest of the season. That just not irrationally makes me mad, but it pisses me off. It does.
And I will say we're not going it here, Scott, but every team evaluates things differently. If they had a first-round grade on Ty Simpson and he's available here, given where your broom is at, new regime, you'd probably do it. You'd probably do it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not so bold and I'm not ready to move on from Penix, but with the injuries and the play we've seen and the new regime, it at least is a box you have to check off either direction. Yay, nay. So again, my first gut here.
That there's a lot of love for Christian Miller here.
Let's do it. We know that we'll
I've done that before. So you've kind of taught me. And again, I got no problem here. This is one I'd love to move down a couple spots. If we had an offer to move down 3 spots, I'd do it. And, Malachi Lawrence, I could take that in a heartbeat. Even if James Pierce Jr. is back. Yeah. I can do 3 edges. And besides,
5.
I can move
greedy.
I can move Jalen Walker around. We're talking about Jalen Walker moving back to take on a little bit more of the inside linebacker role this year. I can come off the edge in 3rd and long with James Pierce Jr., Malachi Lawrence, and then have Jalen Walker on the field at the same time. No problem. Yeah. So I would be considering him in this spot as well. But again, I've got mid money to Jahan Dotson, who's on a 1-year guarantee. He's on a 2-year deal, but it's 1 year of guaranteed money. And then Olamide Zaccheaus. My wide receiver room still needs help. So let's
for me, I'd probably go Chris Bell, but I'm fine to. We're going Chris Bell.
We're going Chris Bell, but again, those were the thoughts on there, and I got no problem. Scott, I can't believe you didn't take. Just don't be a jerk about it in the comments because I'll probably agree with you.
Yeah,
I had no problem.
How many simulations are we going to use?
I had no problem going going with Bernard there, and Lawrence was another one there.
Yep. And I think Jackus is interesting too.
Yep,
All
Gabe.
the same. So we are still looking at edge.
We did get one trade offer. We're at 79, and they want to trade us all the way down to 147. That's fine if you give me next year's second round pick.
I might even do next year's third, but just top 100. I think Kalen Rutledge is really interesting here. We'll see about Bergeron. The issue is Rutledge is mostly been right guard.
Take him. And Kalen can play a little bit of center too.
He's an ass kicker, man, certified. Big fan of him. I would be 0% surprised if he ends up one of like the 5-10-year starters on the interior in this class. The issue is how comfortable is he playing right guard versus left guard? Because like right guard's pretty safe. You never know with those guys.
AJ says, how comfortable you are that we're going to re-sign Bergeron. If not, Rutledge isn't a bad picker. I'm not. I don't think Bergeron has been great. He's been serviceable. Has he been worthy of a second round pick? And did they trade up to get that pick? I don't remember for sure. Probably Terry trades up for everybody. I don't remember if they did or not. I thought he might be a right tackle, but do you play 4 years at guard in the NFL and then kick out to tackle? I mean, that doesn't happen real often.
No.
That Bergeron, I don't think he's an automatic re-sign next year.
No, not at all. So Rutledge is interesting. Dennis Sutton, great athlete at edge. Definitely in play. I'm not as much of an Igbinosun fan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, Skylar Bell would be great here.
I know. How did he drop down that far? We took him in the second not that long ago, I thought.
His ADP,
his average draft ranking is 20 spots higher.
Yeah, we're using a different board too.
Yeah, we are using a different board, which makes it a little more interesting.
Yeah, Skylar Bell, in hindsight, maybe taking Christian Miller or Malachi Lawrence and then Skylar Bell.
Yeah, Skylar Bell had a monster pro day the other day.
Yep, great athlete. Can you scroll down a little bit more? Logan Jones, Ted Hurst, Chandler Rivers, Kilgore.
I'm okay, but now that Dirty Bird Star's not here, he's going to have to comment later.
I think for me, on this one, Rutledge makes sense. And then can you scroll up? Dennis Sutton. I mean, getting another athlete there at edge. I think he's I know everybody's on another Penn State pass rusher, but they had a lot of weirdness at Penn State this last year.
Let's stick with the thought of we're building for the future here a little bit. And know that I've got a guard and a center on contract years.
Yeah. I mean, Rutledge is a great player.
Yeah, we'll get Rutledge here. Which takes us to now you start getting who do you like? It doesn't necessarily matter about the position as much. I don't know how to tell Ike unless y'all want to mention in the comments that I think the sound's okay for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So
just to answer Scott though, Dennis Sutton had the best relative athletic score of any edge rusher in the entire combine. So
McClellan's got some size. What do you think about Allgeier?
Drew Allgeier? I mean,
yeah.
Depends on what the team thinks. You brought in Simeon, so you don't necessarily need that quarterback 3, but if you think he can be a starter long term, there's absolutely no issue with it.
Hey, we've done this before, and I got no problem doing it again.
Can you scroll up again? Sorry, I was trying to look at the relative athletic score. I think Moore, you've been talking about it. Moore makes a lot of sense. Lawson is a big athlete. The one here who, Scott, given your type of defense you play and how much you love to send the pass rushers here, and given what we've seen athletically from him, you're talking, 5th round, Harold Perkins sitting there. I mean, what did he run?
Was he here? He just ran a 4.3 at his pro day. I mean, he was a 5-star, like possible number 1 overall not too long ago. There's some upside there.
I think I don't know if we've gone Harold Perkins yet.
No, but I've thought about it a lot. We've talked about him and we've never pulled the trigger on that one. I think he's got some inside-outside possibilities as well.
And you just get really versatile with a lot of guys you can go with there. I really like Kaleon Black. I like Sawyer Robertson at this spot as well.
I'm not a big fan of Sawyer Robinson. I wouldn't draft him at all. Maybe UDFA.
UDFA? Okay. 6th round.
I don't think he's a draftable type of quarterback.
I like Trey Moore down here as well. Linebacker, Texas, good athlete. I know we just took a linebacker, but you're talking essentially 7th round. Barian Brown is interesting. I really like
some juice.
You like Gums? I really like Tyron Montgomery.
Down here. I think he's got some potential.
I like Tyron Montgomery a lot. I like Wright.
Where are we at with him? I lost him.
He's the one with no logo.
Wide receiver John Carroll. We can
Yep.
go small school.
Yep. Big athlete. I also like Gums as well. So either
let's see if we can get Gums. Maybe we can get them both. Let's go Gums and then Montgomery because we got 2 picks here. So Robinson.
He's gone.
He was gone. He got nabbed. Caleb Douglas. Logan Fano. That's a different one. That's his brother. Fano that's getting talked about a lot for the arms.
That's his brother on the other side of the ball. I think either of those linebackers, Jack Kelly or Moore, makes sense. You could get a developmental guy in Fernando Carmona as well. And I mean, again, you're talking
about Carmona, I believe, is the one that looked. He was having a lot of trouble in 1v1s, and then once they went to 11v11, he started doing a really good job down at the Senior Bowl.
7th round. I mean, if he even makes the roster, it's a good pick at the end of the day. And as Cooper, also interesting. I like Daquan Wright. I think he's going to be a serviceable tight end in the league. Tight end 3 or 4. But that's
let's go lines of scrimmage again. I don't think Hurst is available. ATL Q. I think he's gone.
He's gone. Yep.
And he was a wide receiver.
He went like 4th round.
Yeah.
He's the Georgia State one. He's gone.
Oh hell, Caleb Douglas is still there. Caleb Douglas is
you take another wide receiver. You need him.
Caleb Douglas is good. He's
I like
big
Kendrick Law too. Down all that way.
I'm gonna sneak him in there. He won't last that long. He's 6'4", ran 4.4, I think.
Yeah.
I just like the way it could. Just for me, it's hard to explain, but when you see them out there, there's guys that look kind of robotic, and then there's guys that just glide. It's like they just look like athletes. When I'm reading books and they say, the easy stride of an athlete or something like that, how they describe them, I'm like, you can just see that. And that was Caleb. And Jacoby was on a different level. Jacoby looked like he'd been catching things since he was an infant. Just like, oh yeah, this is what I do. Didn't even think about it. No stress, no wasted motions, just catch. That's how Jacoby was. Like, that's just what he did. But this one was a little bit different for us. I don't know if this was my favorite of our mock drafts.
We didn't get a trade down. Is the concern. But also, I mean, Scott, the reason is this is maybe our first one since that Sidney Brown trade. So we're minus 2 picks.
Yeah. Well, we were moved down 2 picks.
Yeah.
We were moved down in 2 picks in the 4th and the 6th. They moved down some. But we basically took a running back off the board, which we had been taking a running back in this one. And we kind of take quarterback off the board too. Not really, if Taylon Green is there, I'm still real interested in him.
You like Cole Payton too.
And I like Cole Payton a lot too. We'll see where they end up going. Again, as you mentioned, there doesn't seem to really be a middle class for quarterbacks. I think that'll change this year. I think we'll have some early day 3, day 2 guys go this year instead of it being 1st and 7th.
It used to be there used to be a 4th round. Prop come off.
I think we'll see some of that. This isn't my favorite, but there's help here. The wide receiver room got better, and then we're building for the contingencies, a little more depth on the offensive line, and then I don't have to overspend on Bergeron or Newsel if I've got Rutledge, and then Perkins is a high flyer, high reward. We'll see. It never quite all came together for him at LSU, so we'll see.
The one again in hindsight, knowing what we knew, it would have been nice to take Christian Miller or Malachi Lawrence or Gabe Jackas, and then having
probably if I were to do it again, I think you're right, because we had the chance to take Skylar Bell there in the 3rd. So would I rather, if I'm going back, but that's part of the draft. That's one of the things that makes it so much fun.
You don't know what other teams are going to do and who's going to be available.
You don't know who's going to be there. You can't count on them being there.
Yep.
In hindsight, I would probably rather have Christian Miller and Skylar Bell.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Bell. There are 2 Bells here. Okay, that's confusing.
Yep.
Then Chris Bell and Kalen Rutledge. But
I do love Chris Bell. Man, he's a unit. Get the ball in his hands and watch him run.
So
my favorite pick
good
though is
stuff,
probably
y'all.
Perkins.
We're going to get out of here. So again, just a reminder, hit the comments on what you would think about a draft night, day 2, Friday night in the metro area. I'm thinking Taco Mac over on Peachtree Industrial for a Falcons podcast draft party. Could you make it? Would you make it? If I get enough yeses, we'll do it. We'll figure it out. And if it can't be there, we'll be someplace not too far from there. We'll do it. So let me know. And then I want to say thank you to our Super Chat superstars, Denver Luke, Rusty, Carrie coming in, Big Low, and then a new member, C Electrician, coming in, moving our numbers up, moving the needle for us. So,
and I have to give a shout out, Scott. Go Hawkeyes, right? I don't know if there's any Gator fans in here, but biggest basketball win for that men's program since 1999. They haven't made the Sweet 16. So
that's
take down
nice.
the number 1 Florida Gators.
That's it's strange. It's like Nebraska is now a basketball power and can't win a football game. Indiana's 16-0, and just it's weird. It's weird. It's a new day. Well, it's a new day for the Atlanta Falcons with a new regime, and hopefully we can turn the page and see some new stuff instead of the same old. They're just changing names and the same old stuff keeps happening. This franchise is due some luck. I think they've had some in this offseason, and frankly, you make some of your own luck, which they've not done a good job of doing either. But we're going to get out of here. Garrett will be back tomorrow night. I will be back on Friday for the members. We'll be doing, catch up on stuff, and then we'll finish with another mock draft. Otherwise, we will see the rest of y'all again. Again, hit the comments. See the rest of y'all again on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. It is just flat out gorgeous out there right now, except for all the pollen. And we'll see y'all later. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Peace.